There comes a moment, quiet and piercing, when we realize that the rest of our life doesn't begin someday. It begins the moment we stop waiting to be allowed to live it. After 60, you don't owe the world a performance. There is a quiet pressure many people feel after 60, a subtle suggestion that unless you are living your retirement a certain way, you're doing it wrong. Maybe you're not traveling the world like your friends. Maybe you're not babysitting the grandkids every weekend. Maybe you're not spending your days in clubs, community events, or endless social circles. And somehow, even in this chapter of life where freedom was promised, you still find yourself explaining or worse, apologizing for living differently. Let's be clear, there is no single way to age, to rest, or to reclaim your time. And there's certainly no moral prize for overextending yourself to meet other people's ideas of a fulfilling retirement. Whether you spend your days tending a garden, reading books in silence, walking alone, or learning something new just for fun, your life doesn't need to be validated by productivity, social buzz, or other people's understanding. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing simplicity over chaos, solitude over noise, or peace over pleasing. Living differently is not defiance, it's authenticity. You've spent too many years trying to fit into molds designed for someone else's comfort. Now you get to design your life around your own. No more apologizing for not being available, for not picking up every call, for choosing what feels good in your body and your spirit. There is wisdom in withdrawing from what drains you and courage in saying, this is enough for me. When you stop apologizing for living differently, you make space for deeper joy and integrity. You stop performing and start belonging to yourself. And that, more than anything, is the essence of a truly happy, healthy retirement. Let this be the chapter where you stop explaining and start enjoying. Someday when things settle down, someday when I lose the weight, someday when the kids don't need me as much, someday when I feel ready, we whisper these lines to ourselves like promises. Soft little delays that feel responsible or realistic. But the truth is, someday often becomes never if we're not careful. After 60, it's easy to keep deferring your own joy, healing, and personal dreams. You've spent decades meeting the needs of others, following schedules, responding to urgency, and carrying obligations. So when freedom finally arrives, it can feel unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. And that's when someday shows up again, dressed as caution, cloaked in fear, whispering that you're too late or too tired or too unsure. But here's the hard truth wrapped in deep compassion. This is not a rehearsal. This is the real thing. This moment right now is your life. You are not promised 5 more years, 10 more summers, or 20 more tries. That doesn't mean you should panic or rush. It means you should start. Start where you are with what you have in whatever state you're in. Maybe it's starting that novel you've dreamed about writing, or joining a class that has nothing to do with being productive and everything to do with being curious. Maybe it's getting on a train just to see where it goes, or wearing the outfit that feels too bold, or telling someone how deeply you care about them, or finally, forgiving yourself for what you didn't know back then. Someday, thinking keeps you locked in preparation mode, waiting for the stars to align, but life has always been a little messy, hasn't it? The beauty begins when you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start living within the realness of now. There's nothing reckless about choosing joy now. There's nothing irresponsible about saying, I've waited long enough. You're not too late. You're just in time for your own life. Letting go of someday is an act of rebellion against fear and a sacred act of devotion to yourself. Because now is where the magic happens. Now is where your life reclaims you. There is a quiet, almost invisible habit many of us develop over time, shrinking ourselves. We do it to keep the peace. We do it to avoid confrontation. We do it because somewhere along the line, we were taught that being too much, too bold, too emotional, too direct made other people uncomfortable. And after 60, many people are still stuck in this old pattern, whispering their truth instead of speaking it, holding back their light to avoid casting a shadow on someone else's insecurity. But here's the truth. Your strength is not a threat. Your voice is not too loud. Your presence is not too big. You've spent a lifetime holding things in, opinions, pain, dreams, wisdom. Because somewhere deep down, you feared what would happen if you showed up fully. But that version of you that plays small, that version isn't honest, and it certainly isn't free. At this point in your life, you don't need to seek permission to take up space. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, you've earned every inch of ground beneath your feet. You've carried generations. You've survived silence. You've witnessed losses. You've held secrets, managed chaos, navigated disappointments, and through all of it, you remained. That's not too much. That's power. When you choose to stop shrinking, you send a message, not just to the world, but to yourself. I am allowed to be whole. That means no more toning down your joy so others won't feel lacking. No more pretending to be fine when you're hurting. No more minimizing your successes or your stories because you're afraid people will say you're bragging. You are not responsible for other people's discomfort when you choose to live truthfully. Let people adjust to your truth. Let them sit with the fullness of who you are. If they are worthy of you, they will rise to meet your authenticity, not try to dim it. You weren't put on this earth to be palatable. You weren't meant to be manageable. You were meant to be you, fully, boldly, beautifully you. Let that be the new standard. Let that be your offering. Because your light doesn't get brighter by hiding. It gets brighter by being claimed. So no more shrinking, no more silence, no more waiting for approval that you no longer need. This is your time to stand up, speak up, and take up all the space your heart requires. The world doesn't need a smaller version of you. It needs exactly who you are. There's a moment, sometimes subtle, sometimes loud, when your body knows before your mouth speaks. It's the tightness in your chest, the slight clenching of your jaw, the sinking feeling in your stomach. Your soul is saying no, but out of habit, fear, or guilt, you smile and say yes anyway. For years, maybe decades, you've been conditioned to be agreeable. You were raised to be kind, helpful, accommodating. You said yes to invitations you didn't want, responsibilities you didn't choose, and burdens that weren't yours to carry. Not because you didn't know how to say no, but because you believed saying no made you selfish, difficult, or ungrateful. But here's the truth. Saying yes when your soul says no is a betrayal, a quiet betrayal that happens in small moments until one day you don't recognize yourself anymore. You're exhausted, resentful, emotionally disconnected because you spent so long abandoning your inner truth to meet the expectations of others. After 60, this pattern becomes even more dangerous. Your energy is more precious now. Your peace is hard-won. Your time is a limited and sacred resource. You can't afford to keep spending it on obligations that drain you, conversations that wound you, or relationships that only work when you're pretending to be someone you're not. Saying no doesn't mean you don't love people. It doesn't mean you're hard or bitter. It means you've learned that self-respect is not selfishness. It's a boundary. It's a declaration that your well-being matters too, and not just when everyone else has been taken care of, but now. First, sometimes the hardest person to say no to is the one who raised you, or the one who depends on you, or the friend who always asks just a little too much. But you are not here to be endlessly available. You are not a bottomless well. And loving people well doesn't mean allowing them to deplete you. So start checking in with yourself before you respond. Ask, does this feel right? Will I feel resentful afterward? Am I saying yes to avoid guilt or to stay true to myself? If your soul says no, trust that voice, honor it. Practice pausing. Give yourself permission to say not this time. I'm not available, or simply no thank you. And then don't explain yourself. You don't owe anyone a justification for protecting your peace. Freedom doesn't always look like doing what you want. It often looks like not doing what you don't want and finally feeling okay with that. This is not the season to people please. This is the season to soul protect. Every no you say now opens the door for a deeper, more intentional yes later, one that aligns with your heart, your energy, and the beautiful boundaries you've earned the right to set. Let your no be sacred. Let it be your healing. Let it be your power. There's a quiet, almost invisible weight that many people carry into their later years, the deep, often unspoken need to be needed. It sounds noble, and for much of life it is. You've been the glue, the helper, the fixer, the caregiver. You've been the one others could count on, sometimes at your own expense. But now, in this new chapter, that same need can begin to quietly drain you, not because it's wrong to be there for others, but because when your identity depends on being needed, you start to lose touch with who you are when no one is asking for anything. After 60, something remarkable begins to unfold, if you let it. This season of life is not just about continuing your service to others, it's about returning to yourself. And to do that, you have to gently, and sometimes painfully, untangle your worth from your usefulness. It's hard, especially if you were always the one who held everything together. Maybe your adult children don't call as often. Maybe your partner no longer depends on you the same way. Maybe the busy household you once ran has grown quiet. You may feel invisible or unsure of your place in the world. But here's what's important. You are not disappearing. You are being redefined. Releasing the need to be needed doesn't mean withdrawing love. It means letting go of the belief that your value is tied to what you do for others. You are still valuable even when you're resting. You are still worthy even when you're not fixing anyone's mess or offering solutions. You are still important even when no one is asking anything of you. This is your time to ask yourself, who am I outside of being useful? What do I want? What brings me joy, even if no one claps for it? It might feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel a little lost without the urgency of being needed. But in that space, something beautiful has room to grow, a self-defined life. A life not built around obligation, but around curiosity, joy, peace, and truth. Releasing the need to be needed also means allowing others to grow. When you step back, you make space for them to become responsible, resilient, and self-aware. You model what healthy aging looks like: self-ownership, grace, and unapologetic boundaries. You've done enough. You've given enough. And now you are enough, without proving, without overextending, without being on call. You don't need to be indispensable to be deeply loved. You don't need to be constantly needed to still matter. You can exist in fullness, with or without a role to play. So let go, gently, lovingly, boldly, and watch what returns to you. Time, clarity, purpose, and the sacred space to become more you than you've ever been. Regret is a heavy traveler. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tiptoes into your quiet moments, revisiting old scenes, reminding you of words you didn't say, choices you wished you'd made differently, time you didn't know was running out. And if you're not careful, regret can become a companion you carry into every morning, every conversation, every reflection after 60. But here's the truth. Regret isn't wisdom. It's grief in disguise. And like all grief, it deserves to be acknowledged, but it doesn't deserve to drive your life. You've lived long enough to know that perfection was never the goal. It was the illusion. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time, with the strength you had, with the tools that were available to you. So many of the things you now regret came from a version of you that was just trying to survive, to love, to be enough in a world that didn't always show you how. Let that be enough. Because when regret becomes a daily companion, it steals your ability to enjoy what still is. It turns every sunset into a reminder of a missed opportunity, every silence into a replay of past mistakes. It shrinks your future into a penance for your past. You are not here to keep paying for your humanity. You are not here to live the rest of your life as if it must constantly make up for what you didn't know, didn't do, or didn't become. What if you allowed yourself to forgive the younger you? What if, instead of carrying regret like a punishment, you carried it like a teacher, a reminder of how far you've come, of what you won't repeat, of how much you've grown? The past doesn't need to be rewritten for you to feel peace. It just needs to be released, gently, intentionally, one breath at a time. You don't need to get over it. You need to let go of the belief that you are only your worst decisions. Letting go of regret doesn't mean pretending everything was fine. It means recognizing that your healing is more important than your shame. It means choosing to live fully now without dragging the weight of yesterday into every tomorrow. You are still here. That means there is more for you to feel, more for you to learn, more for you to give, more for you to love, and more for you to receive. Regret may visit, but it doesn't have to stay. Open the door, let it speak, and then kindly, firmly tell it that your story is not over and you refuse to let the rest of your life be written in past tense. You are not the mistakes. You are the lessons. You are not the loss. You are the grace that followed. Let that be your new companion. 9 things to stop doing after 60 for a happier, healthier retirement. There's a sacred shift that happens when you finally stop living to meet expectations and start living in alignment with your soul. After 60, life is no longer about proving, pleasing, or performing. It's about returning to yourself, to your truth, to the quiet wisdom that's been patiently waiting underneath all the noise. You are not here to be who you once were. You are not here to apologize for the ways you've changed. You are here to honor the years that shaped you and to release the habits that no longer serve you. This chapter of life is not about shrinking, waiting, or sacrificing your joy to remain useful in someone else's story. It's about living freely, choosing boldly, loving intentionally, and letting go courageously. Let go of the someday. Let go of shrinking to make others feel okay. Let go of obligations that drain your spirit. Let go of needing to be needed to feel seen. And let go of regret as your daily lens. You've earned rest. You've earned peace. You've earned a life that fits you, not just the roles you've played. So say no when you mean it. Speak up when you feel it. Be bold in your becoming. Because this isn't the end of your story. It's the most honest, unfiltered, and powerful chapter yet. You're not fading. You're not done. You're not too late. You're just finally free.